Welcome to episode 3 of NRI Real Estate Podcast. We are launching this episode after a break and we are going to be very consistent about it. My name is Sachin Mandot. I live in Canada and I like to talk on the NRI matters. With me is Bharat Sarawgee. He is a FCA, fellow chartered accountant with 23 years of experience. He lives in Kolkata and is an expert in NRI matters. He has been invited to talk about financial matters and transactions by different banks. He's appeared in various podcasts like that of Ritesh Jain or Salam Singapore. So welcome Bharat to the podcast.
Yeah. Hi, Sachin. My pleasure doing this podcast again with you.
So Bharat, let's touch the holy grail of NRIs. What are the investments that NRIs are not allowed to make in India, especially with respect to real estate? Because almost all the NRIs either want to buy real estate or either hold real estate or would be inheriting real estate.
Right, Sachin. You see, Sachin, as per FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act, NRIs or OCIs are not allowed to buy any agriculture land, any plantation, or any farmland. So they
Okay.
cannot buy. They can buy a residential house, a residential plot, or a commercial plot, but they cannot buy this agriculture land. So this is a restriction.
Okay. So they can buy. So is there a RERA restriction right now? India has a RERA, right?
RERA is just a regulatory body. It has nothing to do with this restriction. It is basically the FEMA, under the FEMA Act, Foreign Exchange Management Act, this restriction
Okay.
has been made on NRIs so that the
Okay.
ownership does not go outside India.
A lot of yeah, but a lot of people actually buy it, right? By false declarations or by because the local registrar offices do not understand the differences between NRI not NRI. So what happens to people who buy it being an NRI?
You see, this is absolutely a contravention of the FEMA Act. The NRI cannot buy if they have declared any wrong information to the registrar or to the seller and they have got it registered. They will face this problem at the time of sale. And
Okay.
so this problem, they will not be able to repatriate this fund when they sell this agriculture land.
Okay.
So and
And when they repatriate, do they have to show the documents?
yeah, so whenever the repatriation, you see, whenever they sell the land, the money comes to the bank. The bank will
Okay.
look for the source of fund. When they go through
Okay.
the document where it is mentioned that it's an agriculture land, so the bank will raise a red flag. And
Okay.
if it comes to the information of the RBI, then the information directorate can file an application against the person who has done this
Who has
wrong,
sold the land?
who has sold. Yeah.
So I think, and I actually connect with it because recently my wife withdrew her provident fund in order for then the amount got into NRO account. In order for her to transfer the into NRE, we had to give an application stating the source of the fund. So I think banks would be able to detect that if it's an agricultural land or what is the source of the fund.
Right,
You
right,
cannot transfer the money without it.
right. It is the bank obligation and the bank duty to look at those source of fund. Then only they will be transferring it to your NRE account or to your overseas account.
Okay, so that's condition number one, that wrong buying. But let's say that I already own an agricultural land, bungalow, a farmhouse before becoming an NRI, and now I am an NRI. What happens in this case?
Right. In this case, when you bought this farmhouse or land, agriculture land, when you were a resident Indian, you can very well retain this land as a NRI also. There is no
Okay,
problem. The government has, as per the FEMA, you are allowed to hold this ownership even if you have become NRI when you have purchased that land when you were a resident of India. But the only condition is when you sell this land, you have to compulsory sell it to a resident Indian only. You cannot sell it to a non-resident.
so how do authorities know about it? Let's say that I want to sell a land and I'm selling it to a resident or non-resident. Would the authorities come to know about it or it's a
At
self-compliance?
the time of registration, the
Yeah,
registrar are well aware that an NRI cannot purchase any agriculture land. So when you are selling to another NRI, so his documents will be updated in the deed document, which the registrar will look into it, and he should not allow that registration to happen.
okay, makes sense. So it's a compliance at registrar level and
Right.
it's at their discretion.
it should not.
So this is case number two. Now number three, which is I think is going to happen in a lot of people's cases, inheritance. So someone who's an NRI will always have parents or grandparents, anyone who owns land in India, like farmhouse or plantation land. What happens to that inheritance?
Right. You see, if you look at, there's a circular dated 6th of April 2020,
Hmm.
circular, where RBI has mentioned that you can very well inherit a agriculture land or a farmhouse or a plantation. So, in case your parents are holding any agriculture land, through a proper will, they can pass on that asset to you, even if you're an NR.
Okay.
But
Okay.
there is one misconception which is going around in the internet also, that a resident Indian can gift an agriculture land to NRI, or your relative can gift you an agriculture land.
Agricultural land. It cannot happen.
Agriculture land cannot be gifted. It can be gifted
Okay.
only to a resident. It cannot be gifted to a non-resident or an OCI. So only through a proper will or through inheritance you can get this agriculture land.
Okay. And so how does the process of inheritance work? Let's say that there's a will that my parent or grandparent has made. Now that registration can happen smoothly with the registrar, or what's the process of that?
You see, this inheritance happens in two way. Either there is a will, or if there is no will, then the property pass on to the legal heirs equally.
Okay.
So in that case you need to have a succession certificate.
Okay.
So if there is a will, you have to submit that will for probate in the court of India, where the probate happens, and then you become and that property is transferred to you as per the wishes of the testator who has written the will. But
Okay. Now
in case there is no will, then it is equally divided among the legal heirs.
okay, that makes sense.
Hmm.
So now let's move on to the financial instrument. So land, we are clear about how NRIs can do and cannot do. So one thing that a lot of NRIs then again have after land is PPF and sovereign gold bonds in the recent times. So can NRIs continue to invest or hold in PPF accounts?
No, NRIs are not allowed to invest any fresh amount in PPF. The same condition applies if they had applied earlier when they were resident, they may continue to hold it till the maturity.
Okay.
They cannot make a new fresh PPF account.
Okay. So
Similarly,
new account is not allowed. If I
new,
already have one, I can continue it.
till the maturity,
Okay.
which is
And
15
what
years.
about sovereign
You
gold
cannot
bonds?
renew it further. Then you cannot buy an NRI and OCI cannot buy a sovereign gold bonds. If they really want to invest in gold in India, they can buy a gold ETF, or they can buy physical gold also. So sovereign
Oh,
gold bond is not allowed. Yeah,
so there's no restriction on me as an NRI buying a physical gold in India and keeping it in my locker.
yeah.
I can do that.
There is no restriction at all.
And what about silver? Can I buy silver has the same treatment?
Yeah, yes, similar. Silver ETF or silver physical silver you can buy.
So Bharat, apart from buying agricultural land and opening new PPF accounts and sovereign gold bonds, what are the other financial transactions or instruments that NRIs are not allowed to do?
Right, Sachin. Sachin, many NRIs, OCIs are not aware that they cannot do a intraday transaction in India, intraday stock transaction in India. Like they are buying up stock and immediately they are selling, or reverse, they are selling or they are buying after that. So they are not allowed. So they have to.
FNO is also not allowed.
FNO is allowed, future and options are allowed, but currency derivative and commodity derivatives are not allowed. So
Okay.
it comes under the prohibited sector for NRIs.
Okay. And what else?
Similarly, they cannot invest in national saving certificates.
Okay. NSC is not allowed.
Yeah. They cannot invest in NSE. Then they cannot invest in senior citizen fixed deposits. Then
Okay.
post office deposit of 5 years. And
Okay.
then many other investments where NRIs are specifically not allowed to, NRIs or OCIs are not allowed to invest. Similarly,
So the moment you do your KYC as an NRI, you would be automatically debarred from these, right? So if I go to post office and if I say that I'm an NRI, they would not anyways allow me to
they
do
will
it.
not allow. They will not allow. Exactly.
But if I have an existing investment into that, then they would have no issues.
But you must update your KYC and show yourself as a non-resident in all your investments. Otherwise,
Okay.
it's a wrong disclosure of information.
Okay. Makes sense. So let's say that if someone does it and FEMA, which is Foreign Exchange Management Act, gets to know about it, what are the penalties on these things?
As per Section 13 of the FEMA Act, there are very harsh penalties. Penalties could be up to 3 times of the transaction value,
Okay.
or it could be rupees 2 lakhs, whichever is higher. And if this
Okay.
penalty continues, then there's a daily fine of 5,000 rupees per day.
So that's a very heavy fine.
Right, right, right.
Okay. So I think an NRI should be well aware of these investments that they can and they cannot make.
Mm-hmm.
Bharat, you are an experienced person in this regards. So I would put our contact number and email address in the description and in the screen. If any NRIs wants to reach out to you for any of these consultancy or advices.
Sure, Sachin, I'll share.